Welcome to JFP Sports, where fantasy and sports talk lives. A little bit of Demont and the Belmonts. Yes, Dion, you oldies fans out there, D Nanas and I are actually big Bronx Tale folk. We love that movie.
Great movie, Puma. Really good movie. Very classic, you know? Good life lessons, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, behind the glass, as always, is D Nanas, and my compañero is Ricky P. We are here, so let's dive into the news. But first, I got to give a little props to D Nanas' Rays.
That's
his
right.
Tampa
Let
Rays.
me hear it for once. Let me get a little credit over here, buddy.
Yeah,
Tell me.
we took the shackles off him so he could talk.
Hallelujah. My ankles feel loose.
What do you think of their new stadium, buddy?
You know what, man? Good for them. I'm glad they're going to do something to their field. Everyone says Tropicana Field's a little depressing. It's dark, but you know what? The demographics it matches up perfectly for where they're placed.
Okay.
You know, they're just in a bad area for new fans. You know, it's retirement city over there. Nothing bad with that. Great people, but also conservative people too. So,
okay.
You know, but it's definitely a great change from being 100 degrees outside to like 70 inside. So it's nice.
Okay.
I get amped up. Come on, man. You kept me behind the glass for how many weeks?
Yeah, a very long time. So, yes, that's D Nanas' take, but hey, you're here for Ricky and I. So, on to the next, as Jay-Z says. So, Rick, NBA, LeBron James to LA. What an impact. What do you think of that?
Yeah, this one was coming for a while now. I think people are just throwing some different teams out there just to keep the conversation going. But the Lakers always seem to be the front runner, and it came to fruition. You had the Sixers thrown out there, a possible reunited tandem with Kyrie Irving in Boston potentially, even though that didn't seem great. Potentially going back to Cleveland. We've heard Houston.
I can't believe he left again.
Yeah, he did a lot for that city. You know, the first time he left, people didn't blame him for leaving, and I don't think you could blame him for leaving now, to be honest with you. He wants to win, and LA is a great place to do it.
I love when I see the Cleveland Cavalier fans. You see them on Instagram, and the nowadays thing is to just buy a person's jersey that left and just light it on fire. I mean, I think that's pretty immature. I mean, they knew he was gonna leave. I mean, they have zero around him, you know?
Yeah, no, and nothing beats that J.R. Smith play when he's running backward, and that might have just sealed it for him.
Yeah, really.
I just think that he did a lot for that city. He got them a title with Kyrie, beat the 73 win team, right. With Kyrie side by side, and I think it's time for a new venture, and LA poses that. He can do a lot of things off the court with his new company, Uninterrupted, and we saw the other day with Blaze Pizza, people were filing outside hoping to get a chance to see him in LA for the first time. And
where was he, on Rodeo? Where was he?
No, he was home. He was home. He had that new advertisement, Blaze Pizza, and that he's a part owner in Blaze Pizza.
Okay.
So people thought he was going to be out there. Lo and behold, he wasn't. I don't know why people thought that, but the Lakers have a lot of things to be excited about, potentially Kawhi with a trade, or DeMarcus Cousins, or Klay Thompson, even maybe KD next year. So while this Warriors dynasty moves forward, the Lakers are building.
I mean, also, too, this kind of kills his consecutive being in the finals. I think he's been in the finals eight
years in a row, yeah.
8 years in a row. So doesn't this kind of put a damper on it? Because now he has to go through the West, and he has to go through the mighty Golden State Warriors.
He does, and we look at the Warriors, and it's definitely a dynasty. They've won 3 out of 4, and it looks like it's going to be 4 out of 5 with the addition of Boogie Cousins. Whether they need him or not is a different story, but
it's like a fantasy team.
Right, I think LeBron he's got his rings, and I think that Michael Jordan chase might be over. Yeah. In my opinion, I don't think it's ever going to happen. He's already got 5 losses. He's not, I don't know if he's even going to get 500 in the finals, but I think this is a lifestyle change more than anything. If we were going purely basketball, we might be looking at Houston, and he didn't make that move. But a few trades, a few additions, they could be competing. I'd say they're top 4 or 5 team in the West this year. Mm-hmm. Add another superstar, and
Like a Kawhi Leonard.
A Kawhi, maybe a KD next year.
Maybe dish off Ingram, the former Duke product.
Right. You might have to trade one of those guys, an Ingram, a Ball, or a Kuzma, potentially even maybe a Josh Hart and a few picks. But, we've seen it before.
Is Luol Deng still there?
Well, Luol Deng's contract, he's making a ton this year. What they're going to do is they're going to stretch him out and keep the burden to a minimum. I think they can stretch it out to about $8 million this year instead of the 18 originally.
He's a shooter, right? He's a shooter,
but he's a little older. He was really good on those Bulls teams, but it was a contract that Magic Johnson had to take on before he got there.
Last year.
Right, right. And they weren't really paying anyone else, and they paid for the name on the back of the jersey more than anything. He's not really a big-time contributor now, but they added Rondo, and they've added JaVale McGee, who's won before, and Lance Stevenson, so they've added a few teams.
I just feel like they don't have a pure shooter. I mean, obviously, other than LeBron, he's doing all the work, but he always needs that guy to kick it out to. Ray Allen, a Kyle Korver from the past season. So I think their goal now is just to get a pure shooter like a Klay Thompson, somebody who could shoot that range of threes.
Yeah, and
make it rain.
I think Rob Pelinka, just came out the other day and said you can't beat the Warriors at their game. You got to find a different game to beat them at. And
get them defensively,
right? And I think they're going to try to
smother them.
Right, get them defensively, bring the toughness, bring the energy, and for this season, that's their game plan. And you got LeBron. Who knows?
Okay. So the King is in Hollywood Boulevard. On to MLB and the MLB All Star 2018. Midsummer Classic comes to us Tuesday at 8 p.m. And Rick, I mean, listen, you and I have both had debates going back and forth of who should make it, who shouldn't have made it, who was deserving, who wasn't.
I'll give you two guys each that I thought were deserving. You got to go. One is Nick Markakis as far as
absolutely. The guy's been with Baltimore forever, and he was never an All-Star.
Right, and some of those Baltimore teams were good. They haven't been bad forever. They've been good.
Leading the ballot, actually.
Right, and well-deserving. I think it's more of a feel-good story why he's leading the ballot.
Also, knowledge of the fans.
Right, knowledge of the fans, right. They understand it. They want to see him for the first time. And if we look at the rest of the outfield, it's Matt Kemp and Harper. Harper's been a down year. I'm looking at that as really a popularity vote more than anything.
Absolutely.
And Matt Kemp, he hasn't been the same Matt Kemp. He's having a good season, but this isn't the Matt Kemp when he was dating Rihanna a few years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
The guy was a world beater. So it's not the best NL outfield of all time, but he's well deserving. The other guy on the NL I think is deserving is Josh Hader.
Wow, the Noah Syndergaard from the left.
Right, he can go one out or he can go 3 innings. He gets you saves, he gets you holds. He's unbelievable, 99 to 100.
Good for fantasy. Those fantasy leagues with holds.
Great fantasy player. And he's done really well. Who do you think deserved it? Who do you think actually got the honor and who got it right?
Well, other than like Ricky, I am of the negative side. Now, who was deserving? We mentioned it a little bit. Matt Kemp, I think he's having a great year. I think those numbers are a little misskewed, even though they're deserving of a comeback player this year. But his sparing play, I think those will go down, come back to earth once he starts playing every day, especially with the Puig injury. But yes, I think Matt Kemp is very deserving. Who wasn't deserving for me? On the AL side, I got to go with George Springer. I mean, George Springer was coming out gangbusters in April. The end of May into now, he's been atrocious, Ricky. He's been atrocious. He had a 300 average. The thing is down to 240. It's atrocious. You watch those games, you see, and he's leading off. Isn't that, in an era where, on base percentage is so valued, and you have to get on base, score. If this guy's not hitting a home run, he's striking out, not getting on base. Shouldn't they move him down in the order? Shouldn't he not be an all-star?
Yeah, well, we had a day game today versus the A's.
UConn Huskies, that's where he's from. That's what Rick's wearing right now.
That lineup is very different without Carlos Correa in it.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think having Correa towards the top of that order, he usually hits in that 2-hole. Mm-hmm. That's where A.J. Hinch likes him. We see the best hitters hitting 2. We've seen it with Judge. Trout's hit 2 a bunch of times. He doesn't have the protection. So I understand Alex Bregman is really hot right now, but he's not Correa. Mm-hmm. And he never will be. He's not the same talent. And it's George Springer struggling, but I want to look at a guy like we've seen Jose Abreu. I know the first base position is weak, but why is Jose Abreu even in the All-Star game? I know the White Sox don't have a ton to offer, but
everyone needs a representative. Let's just put that out there.
Right, I understand that. And my other guy that I don't think is all that deserving from the AL, I know I'm hating on the AL, is Joe Jimenez.
Oh, Jimenez?
The guy from
that was another one I was going to bring up just now.
From the Tigers. I mean, the Tigers are terrible. If I'm going to pick a reliever from the Tigers, not that I would anyway, I'm picking Shane Green. At least the guy gets saves. I know his ERA is a little high for a closer, but he's got some electric stuff. Mm-hmm. I love the AL team as a whole, but I think the guys that are deserving. We have a few guys. I know Charlie Morton went today. He's a candidate for that last pitching spot. Or Colin McHugh is another guy for that spot.
Did Blake Snell make it?
Blake Snell didn't make it. He's another guy for that spot.
The guy has the leading lowest ERA in the league, and he's not on the team.
Yeah, no, he's someone who should have made it.
Dean Annis is choking himself behind there.
No, and I know you're a bigger Snell guy than I am. I love Blake Snell. I just can't get behind the whole pitching system. I never know who's pitching down in Tampa.
Really.
I check a game, one guy's pitching, 3 outs later, we've already seen 4 pitching changes. Yeah. I can't figure it out.
They're to the new analytical overboard.
Between him and Eovaldi, they get the normal starts. Everyone else, I don't really know who's pitching, and maybe that's why. I don't know. I'm not the biggest Blake Snell guy. While he has the numbers for sure, you can't argue with it. I would have gone with Charlie Morton from the AL. I think this has been his best season.
Okay. Yes, I will say that.
And he's been the most consistent on that Astros team. When we looked at it at the beginning, we said Verlander, Cole, Keuchel. Mm-hmm. Charlie Morton, to me, is their number 1 right now. If not Verlander, he's definitely number 2.
I would say 3 just for the mere fact. Verlander is always the one. And Garrett Cole. That deal that they made over the offseason, it's paying off big dividends right now. And they didn't have to give up a Forrest Whitley, and they didn't have to give up a Kyle Tucker. And I thought that was big, keeping some guys. And what Luna, the GM of the Astros, placated on was he was coming off a bad season with Pittsburgh. He had an ERA north of 4. So sometimes when it's like that, his stock was low, it was best to jump on him.
Yeah, no, I understand. I get that. And I think there's always a snub every season. We have this conversation all the time.
And a day or so ago, it was Jed Lowry. And Jed Lowry just made it because someone was hurt. Gleyber Torres, actually. Our Gleyber Torres was hurt.
And that's why they come out right away. People overreact, and we see guys get hurt. Or how about the pitchers that pitch on Sunday, and they're not going to be eligible, or they're not going to be able to go when they come the All-Star game. So... my biggest snub, I would have liked to see Charlie Morton, is, to me, Max Muncy.
Oh.
I mean, he is taking...
But he's in the home run derby.
He is in the home run derby.
We'll hit on that.
And he plays multiple positions. Forget about the offense. Great feel-good story coming from Oakland. We've seen what the marginal Oakland guys become when they go to a team where they're given more responsibility and they can play and... they're thrown into that postseason run. Max Muncy he plays first. He could play the outfield. Great clubhouse guy. I would have liked to see him in there. But, we go back and forth on the snubs. There are always guys who should have been in or who
with the, I will revisit the upstate Muncy thing. Max Muncy, him going to the Dodgers, right? And Kemp having this feel-good story of coming back and, because he was away for a while in Atlanta. But with Muncy, I feel like since he's arrived, the Dodgers have gotten better, and I could say he could be their MVP, if not the MVP of the NL. Now, if you're looking at it from a numbers point perspective, you're probably like, I have like 7 other choices. But look at it from a team perspective. Since he's got on the map, that lineup has been very good. Very, very good, and hitting second and playing second base, first base, and a little bit of the outfield.
Yeah,
and third.
He really does have that MVP resume right now, and my MVP would be Nolan Arenado right now, and that's just a personal thing. But I look at the Dodgers, and I've been on the record saying this for a while now. The Dodgers will win the NL West. I firmly believe that. On paper, they definitely have the most talent. We know Kershaw had a good outing last time, and he's starting to get back to himself. But the Dodgers, in a weak National League, all things considered, the Dodgers seem to be that team that's going to bust out to me in the second half. And some of these guys that were used to having good seasons, they're not doing it. Bryant's not having an unbelievable season. I know he's been a little dinged up, but some of these other guys, Paulie Goldschmidt just started getting hot. Yeah. I mean, we're talking about guys like Ozzie Albies. We wouldn't have been doing that a few years ago if Bryce Harper was Bryce Harper.
Right.
So Javi Baez, he might be the MVP through the first month.
No, absolutely. There's so many great choices. And the one good thing about baseball is there's always new names. There's always new up-and-coming names. So it's like a factory. It just keeps on going. Moving on, we do have the MLB All-Star memories. Now, Ricky, we've watched baseball for a very long time. What is your memories of the Midsummer Classic? So
I was stuck between two. The one in 2008. Okay. When it was the last one at Yankee Stadium.
I thought about that one. Yeah.
And, being a Yankee fan, I thought of those first. But I went to another Yankee memory. It was the 2012-13 season when Mariano himself, he announced it would be his last time in the major leagues. And he got the whole farewell tour and everything. But in that All-Star game in 2013, we can talk about all the accolades. But when he went out there and the entire country was watching him pitch for the final time in the All-Star game, you knew he would get 3 outs in a row. The guy's probably, I don't even remember, probably struck out on purpose, honestly. Hit into a pop-up. They didn't want to get a hit off
Right.
But he was the only guy to be named an MVP as a reliever. A lot of people don't know that. And to just watch him in front of everyone, we know how big of a Yankee great he was, but he was a transcendent baseball player. He really changed what we know closers and relievers to be today, and for a guy who was a failed starter to become the best reliever of all time, it was nice to see it in an All-Star game.
The thing with Mariano is why guys like Kenley Jansen, guys like Aroldis Chapman are getting paid, because it just showed how dominant those Yankee teams were with a Mariano Rivera, and if you have a dominant closer like that, lock him up, because there's a dynasty growing. And also, I remember, too, leading up to that day, they were actually thinking about starting him just so they could take him out of the game and he'd get an applause or recognized.
Because sometimes if it's not a good game, and
if you're losing.
What if it's 8-0?
Right.
And it's like you're doing it on purpose. If you start him, a lot of the only reason they didn't want to do that, actually, now that you bring that up, because he was a failed starter, they said we don't want to introduce him as a starting pitcher. Okay. So they kind of wanted to see it come full circle, because if you bring him on as a starter, you might have people like us saying, why would a failed starter be starting a game?
Right.
Which is ironic, but you know what? Just to see him out there one more time.
Right. The script was right.
Right. So I was stuck between that and the last one at Yankee Stadium. But what's your memory? Because there are a bunch of them.
Well, mine is, because I'm a little older than you, my All-Star memory was of Cal Ripken's last game, when he switched spots with Alex Rodriguez and became the 2001 MVP of that year. I mean, I just remember it like it was yesterday. Joe Torre was actually the manager, and they actually had planned going into the game that it was his last All-Star game, put him at short where he originally came up, Cal Ripken Jr. So just that and the memories of me and my father watching it together. And this was a man, Cal Ripken. I remember going to a Cal Ripken game versus the Yankees, and it was Cal Ripken Day at Yankee Stadium. Not a lot of people remember that, or the Yankees would honor a visiting player. But because he was so special to the game, Lou Gehrig type Iron Horse, played every game, hurt. He was like the Brett Favre of that time. And I feel like just because it was him, and with an up-and-coming shortstop to be named third baseman in Alex Rodriguez, I felt like that was my special moment.
Yeah, there are two things about that. One, was A-Rod taking his roids yet at that point? Or
No, he was.
Maybe the hormones hadn't kicked in, and that's why he was so nice. That's the one thing. And the other thing is, it's nice to see these guys, when it is their last season,
get honored.
Yeah, and they're honored in the nicest way as MVP. It always seems they never go out there and if you're Ripken, he doesn't strike out and has 3 errors.
All of a sudden, he got 3 for 3.
Right, Rivera is not going 1 inning, 3 earned runs. It always seems like it's that magical type ending to their final All-Star game moment.
Yeah, and I always, when playing you, if you're a player out there, you definitely know the unwritten rules. So that's to follow.
Right.
So the home run derby. A few days ago, Ricky and I would have said, well, who's in the home run derby? But just last night, we found out who was. For us, we had just mentioned Max Muncy. He'll be taking his place in the home run derby. He'll be facing off against Javi Baez. Okay. Then you have Bryce Harper representing DC.
And he's the 1 seed, I believe.
Yeah, no, he's the 2 seed.
Oh, he's the
Harper.
2 seed. Oh, Aguilar. Jesus Aguilar is the 1 seed.
Yeah, they go by the home runs you have.
Right, okay.
Right. So, in the regular season. So, Harper will be going against Freddie Freeman, who is the 7th seed. Now, in the other bracket, you have Aguilar, who's the 1, against Reese Hoskins, as the 8 from the Philadelphia Phillies. Then you have Bregman of the Astros going against Schwarber in 4 and 5. Schwarber being the 5 and Bregman being the 4. So, who would you take? I know I could have a sense where you would probably lean, but I just want to hear where Ricky P would have, what would his selection be?
These home run derbies aren't about the biggest power hitter. I think it's about the guy who's always having the most magical first half, in my opinion. We've seen it with Aaron Judge. It was kind of like, it was Judge, I believe it was Judge versus Stanton in the final, I believe. And it was like,
yes, it was.
When Aaron Judge broke on, it was like, this guy is not losing. Right. And I had 2 choices. 1, Jesus Aguilar, or 2, Max Muncy. I went with Max Muncy because we know what Jesus Aguilar. I think Jesus Aguilar should be the favorite based on his pure power.
Okay, he's displayed so far.
Right. He's displayed, and this is the first time he's really gotten a full chance to play. He wasn't even a full-time player at the beginning of the season.
Yeah,
but neither was Muncy. Their big horse was Bellinger, and unfortunately Corey Seager before he went down really early in the season. So I just think Muncy's having one of those magical seasons. If this is next year and it's not as magical anymore, maybe I'm not going Muncy. Even with the same numbers, I just think Max Muncy is the guy right now. And he's, that's my pick. I think he's got the power, and I'm going to go with Max Muncy.
A little lefty stroking him. Well, you know what? It seems to me that Ricky and I love Cinderella stories. So I'm going to go with the other Cinderella story, as you just mentioned, the Venezuelan Jesus Aguilar. I love him. I picked up this guy in fantasy. He's been a great surprise. I mean, he has more home runs and RBIs than Stanton, who I picked first. So that tells you all you need to know. But yes, I think it is a Cinderella story, how Judge was last year coming out of nowhere. And I feel like Aguilar has brought the Milwaukee Brewer lineup all together. I mean, you have the speed at the top and the contact in Yelich and Kane. Then you move down to Eric Thames, who's a power hitter. And then you had...
And
Travis Shaw with a little lefty power there. But you had Ryan Braun kind of teetering. Is he declining?
Right, it's not the Ryan Braun that we knew
it's not the Ryan Braun of
2012, 13. Right, those years when he was playing left every day.
Right, so with Aguilar, I think it just confirms that he should be in the lineup every day. And it gives him that 4th hitter in the lineup to move traffic. And I think he's going to ball out. I think he's going to just crank him.
Yeah, no, and he
hits it like a softball player.
Right, he was my second choice. The only reason, if we're looking at it strategically, and some people don't, I trust Muncy in terms of the duration.
Okay.
Aguilar might be one of those guys where he might put up like a 20 number. And I know they've changed the structure in the past, so it's not outs. I believe it's timed now. So he might have one of those numbers where he goes like 20, 25, and we're like, how is he losing? But it starts to wear on you because you can't just take as many pitches as you used to. You could take 4 pitches in a row, and they've changed it to a more timely matter, and that's just a little offset piece. But I see why people like Aguilar. He's also a feel-good story.
Yeah, I feel the guys of the Bregman.
He's the only AL player, Alex Bregman.
Right. Bregman and Javi Baez, they're going to be short-lived just because their body size and they're not home run hitters.
Right. They're a gap-to-gap who hit home
Spray.
runs. Right, they're right. Those are one of those guys. They're not pulling it.
They need to fill out
like
the
that.
lineup card.
Right. I mean, you have one AL guy. When we did the production meeting on earlier Tuesday, we looked at it. We didn't even know who was going to be in it. And all of a sudden, we're going through it last night as we're getting ready for the segment. And all of a sudden, we have guys we didn't even know who's going to be. As far as we knew,
24 hours ago, not even.
As far as we knew, we weren't even sure if they were going to maybe.
You knew Harper was going to be there,
right? And that's a DC thing. If we're going DC guys, I would have liked to see a guy like Mark Reynolds in it. Mark Reynolds hits the baseball a country mile, and he's also having one of those. Or Rendon
has very quick wrists.
The problem is it's Harper in DC. And we don't know if he'll be there next year.
You could actually make a case for Juan Soto.
Right. I think when it comes to the All-Star games in all sports, it's the Pro Bowl, I guess, at the end of the season. But the All-Star games in the mid-season, whatever that time comes, people want to see the popular guys. Because Harper on paper is not an All-Star. I'm sorry.
Absolutely not. He's batting like 230.
But it's DC and it's Bryce Harper. And it might be the last time you see him in an All-Star game in a national
And they need
uniform.
an ambassador.
Right, exactly. Every team, right, when we had
Stanton,
it at Yankee Stadium, it was...
Stanton last year.
Right, Stanton down there, you need it. You need that guy to carry the torch.
Yankee Stadium was Jeter.
It was Jeter.
Yeah.
Right, you're right. You needed the guy to carry the torch. And then that year, after the Jeter year, 2008, then they got the Sabathias of the world and Teixeiras and, and stuff like that. But
moving on, so obviously with the Midsummer Classic coming to all you baseball folk, that means trade deadline is coming. And we definitely have our targets. Ken Rosenthal actually had something where the Yankees were eyeing Mike Moustakas to play first base. The Royals are shopping him, and that's why they started the move to first base. Since then, obviously, fear is the biggest motivator because Bird has hit a home run every day. So maybe that's have put those talks to bed. But I wake up this morning, and I find out the Yankees are heavily strong offer for Manny Machado to the Baltimore Orioles. Now, Rick, why would I do this? I could get him for free, not meaning, free, I mean only money's sake, not player's sake. Why would I trade players, a Justice Sheffield coming up, a Clint Frazier, for a guy that I'm renting for 2 months, if not knowing that he's going to sign after the season?
So...
This makes no sense to me.
No, I'm with you. The only reason I think they should get a pitcher, but I've said for a long time I don't see any of these guys right now that I would trade. I'm not. Don't get me started on J Happ. If you're gonna try to go get J Happ, as far as I'm concerned, just keep the guys that you have.
Yeah,
I'm not. I haven't been a big J Happ fan. If you're sold, if management is sold on Cole Hamels, then I do what I can to get Cole Hamels without giving up a guy like Torres or Andujar. Or an Archer, potentially.
Pitching has to be number one on their list, all right? I'm not saying Machado is a slap you-know-what around. He's a great player. Probably a top 10, top 7 player in this league.
He's a top 3 player right now. The way he's playing, he's by far the best shortstop.
Absolutely. But this league is about what you need, and momentum is as the next day's starting pitcher. You run into Verlander, you run into Garrett Cole, you run into the Astros, who their strength has become starting pitching. What do? You run into a Corey Kluber, Carlos Carrasco. When they are on, who do we have to match with them other than the name Severino?
So let me ask you this. Do you think a guy like Cole Hamels gives you that much better of a chance versus a Machado who goes to third base? And not only do you clearly have the best lineup in baseball. See, I think the way the Yankees are looking at it, they might. I don't know if they're looking at it from my perspective.
Bludgeon teams to death.
Right, and we know in the playoffs that doesn't always work. But when you have a lineup like this, when you have Gleyber Torres, who might be a legitimate ninth hitter at that point, assuming. Let's be realistic. If you go get a Machado,
he's a ninth hitter now.
Right, but with Gary Sanchez, if Gary's back healthy and he gets going, and maybe Bird is what we think Bird could be, and Gardner and these guys every day, and Torres is legitimately hitting ninth, Andujar will be shipped out. If you get Machado, Andujar will be shipped out, in my opinion, or DeGrom. To me, if I'm the Mets or the Dodgers, I'm not talking to the Yankees unless I'm getting Sheffield or I'm getting Andujar. So I think if they can't get the pitcher, the offense, now it is a risk, clearly, with Manny. A guy like DeGrom, it's not as much of a risk. You got a few years. behind that, and it's a New York to New York thing. So if let me ask you, if you can't get the pitcher, is it Machado the next best way to go, or are you just standing still at that point?
It could go either way, right? And the market fluctuates day by day, minute by minute, probably. Okay? So first, if I am, Cashman said they've been linked to Manny Machado. Okay, we get Machado, all right? Whatever they give Baltimore. Okay, let's say it's, I don't know, the Justice Sheffield that we're hearing. Okay, straight. Because at that point, maybe I kind of think about it.
Oh, if you're the Orioles, you can't be taking Sheffield for Machado straight. There's
Why not?
No way.
Well, because my argument to my argument to you is he's a 2-month rental. You're not going to keep him anyway. You might as well get something.
Well, then the Brewers, the Dodgers, whoever, they're going to offer more than just Sheffield, or their equivalent. Their equivalent of Justice Sheffield, because they'll be getting more. Because Machado's at top of the line. If we're looking at Manny Machado like a Jose Abreu, who I think would be a perfect fit for the Yankees, he's a free agent, and I think he's got one more year. He's up for arbitration next year. Perfect for right now, or Moustakas.
For the people out there, they know that I love Machado. But Yankee fans, let's be realistic. You don't need him. Think of the 06 team. Okay? Murderers Row and Robbie Cano. That's what Leland used to call them. And what happened? A young Justin Verlander shut them down that night, and followed by a young Max Scherzer. So, I feel like you could have all the hitters in the world. Lou Gehrig, Babe Ruth, Mickey Mantle, Joe D. But it doesn't matter if they score 3 and you score 2. It doesn't matter.
But I haven't been around long enough, and neither of you. We haven't been around long enough to compare some of the best lineups ever,
right,
in the history of baseball. Top to bottom, I have to assume this is a top 5 lineup in the history. With the addition of Manny Machado.
With Manny, yes, I would say yes.
Top 5 lineup. Now I'm banking, in saying that, I'm banking that Tanaka will be ready for the playoffs healthy, because he's been good in the playoffs, if we look at it. I'm a Sonny Gray believer. You don't go from potential Cy Young award candidate back in Oakland with a career ERA, I believe, of just over 3.5. It's about 3.6. There's no way you're pitching to a 5.7 the entire year. We've seen it with Keuchel. We talked about Keuchel. He was awful for the first few months, and he's been hot lately. I'm saying I believe in the Yankees pitching more than other people believe, and I like Jordan Montgomery. I believe Michael Pineda comes back eventually.
Well, Michael Pineda, he's away, bro. What are you talking about, Michael Pineda? He's in Minnesota.
He's in Minnesota.
Jeez, where you been, bro? What do you mean, Loizaga or?
No, I meant Loizaga. I'm sorry, I meant Jonathan Loizaga. I was just thinking about guys that were hurt.
Johnny Lasagna.
Yeah, Johnny Lasagna. But I think they have some of these guys in Sheffield. I think is the real deal too. I'm not giving away anything right now when I can go get Machado. If I'm the Yankees, I'm not sitting still. Boston,
no, you can't.
Boston is better, and I think Houston is better.
Well, here's my play, and let me see your thoughts on it. You get Machado, right? Okay. Now the package, let's say Sheffield, and you know what? I'll throw you. God, what's his name? I really don't want to do it, but Clint Frazier. A Clint Frazier, Justice Sheffield. Let's say that goes to Baltimore. And
I would do it in a heart. If I'm in the Yankees, I'm doing it in a heart.
And I acquire Manny Machado because you use the ploy of you're not going to get anything anyway. And my prospects are better than what the Dodgers in Milwaukee and Cleveland are offering.
Yeah, we know the Yankee farm system is better than those.
So you go that route. Now, my other ploy is, say you don't want to get the starting pitcher because there's none really worth out there that we've mentioned. How about this route? We take a page out of the Tampa Bay Rays book a little bit, go get Brad Hand from San Diego, maximize our bullpen potential. This way, we're having a 4-inning game. It's like a 4-inning, 3-inning game anyway nowadays. And just start the shutdown with a Chad Green,
other route.
Brad Hand, who's like this year's Andrew Miller.
Then go get Zach Britton, because I don't want to be dealing with the Padres either, because that's more you know what? You can lessen the offer slightly, or you could add another marginal.
That's actually a good point, because I know Britton could pitch in the East.
Right. You already know what Britton can do, and
it's the same deal.
Right. I'd rather deal with Zach Britton than deal with Brad Hand. He's going from the Padres to the Yankees.
Right.
in the New York market. I know what Zach Britton's going to bring.
But you see what I was trying.
Right. No, and I think now if you're giving up, because they don't need Britton, the Orioles don't need anyone. That team.
Everyone's going.
Right.
Except for Chris Davis and Trumbo, who's in the locked in.
Their games look like that game when, remember, they had the I think it was the unfortunate events with the police and the people out there. When they couldn't allow anyone into the game. That's what it looks like down there.
Jeff Samardzija giving up 9 runs. I remember that game.
Right, there was no one. Yeah, right, there was no one there. I think it was like the grounds crew and that was it.
And the popcorn guy who's selling it to nobody.
Right,
but yes.
he's selling it to Buck Showalter.
Yeah.
But no, I'm go get Manny if you can't get a pitcher.
And you know what? Hey, we get that reliever, shorten the game. You know, you have a Tanaka go 4 innings, you have a Sonny Gray go 4 innings, and then bring in the boys.
And if Sonny Gray goes 4 innings, with 1-run ball, and gives it to the
4
bullpen,
strikeouts,
he's getting a standing ovation.
Yes,
especially
with
the
that
way he's
bullpen.
pitched. Right, so, and then you can let Severino. He's giving you at least 2 starts. And with that bullpen, maybe he can. If you have to go Game 7, 1-4-7. If he's only got to go 5 or 6 innings. So there's a lot of ways to go. I'm just not sitting still.
Right. And if I'm the Yankees, I'm always about get the Rolls. Go get the Rolls Royce. As many people want to tell you he's not available, Andujar and Frazier and Justice Sheffield for DeGrom. They wouldn't take it?
I wouldn't give up that much. Andujar, Justice Sheffield, and Frazier.
But that's fair. Mets fans, is that not fair? Because I know a lot of ignorant Yankee fans will say, well, take Tyler Austin and a bag of balls.
Right. Tyler Austin, Donuts, and Greg Bird, and you want Syndergaard and DeGrom back.
Right. No, we're from the political aspect. We're in the middle. We know to make a great trade, the other eyes of the beholder have to see a promise. And you have a promise, and Andujar, who would take over for the ill David Wright. He's never coming back. And you got Justice Sheffield, another pitcher you could build on. And Clint Frazier, who I know the outfield is a plethora of them, with Lagares coming back actually next year. But, hey, listen, I don't go by what I have in each position when I'm like the Mets. I just gain assets. I gain assets because then I'm doing what the Yankees are doing and going to do right now, and that's turn them over, blue chips, trade them for something else down the road.
Yeah, no, and right, it needs blue chips right now. Even if the Mets aren't ready in a few years, maybe Sheffield can get traded again for something else if he becomes anything decent.
Or Frazier because they have so many outfielders.
Right, exactly, because that Mets outfield's not bad. Realistically, you got Conforto, and I love Nimmo
love Nimmo, too. I think that's the biggest, brightest light that they have right now, and he's a people's guy.
Right, yeah, and no, I don't think in Cespedes, if he ever gets healthy, it's not a bad outfield. It's just the rest of the team's not that good, but...
Okay, so from MLB baseball, we're switching over to some training camp stuff in the NFL. Last week we had discussed the NFC East, so now we get into the AFC East. A little breakdown, and we'll be going division by division every week. So, Rick, let's start off with circling the wagons with the Buffalo Bills, all right? Josh Allen, who they selected. Or A.J. McCarron, who they signed to a 2-year, $18 million deal. Who's starting for you?
I'm going A.J. McCarron for the simple fact that he's more NFL ready. I'm not going to sit here and say he's more talented than
Not
Josh
Matt
Allen.
Flynn? I don't know why I look at A.J. McCarron and think Matt Flynn.
Well, Matt Flynn, the only reason he's relevant is because of that huge game he had.
Oh, with Packers
against Week 17, and then he got paid. I believe the Seahawks signed him
the Seahawks with a Russell Wilson same kind of situation.
Well, he signed that huge deal in Seattle, and then they drafted Russell Wilson,
and he never saw the field.
And he never saw the field after that.
Do you think that is a possibility here, or you're going A.J. McCarron?
No, I'm going A.J. McCarron because this Bills team surprised a lot of people by making it to the playoffs last year, and I just think A.J. McCarron is more ready. Why throw Josh Allen into anything that he doesn't need to? That team's predicated on defense and the run game. We know what LaShawn McCoy can do. We know that Bills defense is pretty good coming from last year. Recently, most of the same pieces that they have going. But AJ, he's
is
more
your
ready.
Guy.
Right, and he sat behind Dalton. He knows how to run an NFL offense. At times, I even thought he was better than Andy Dalton, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, there was that Monday night game against Houston, I believe it was, and he showed some flashes with AJ Green.
Right, and that's the Texans, when healthy, have a better defense than even the Bills.
The guy played in 2 national championships.
Right, he's a winner. He's a Nick Saban guy. We know a lot of these Alabama quarterbacks don't turn out to usually be great, but I think he's one of the better ones under the Saban era. And we saw what Mahomes, we don't know what he's going to produce, but he sat behind Alex Smith, and he's thrown into a great situation. Let Josh Allen develop, maybe get another weapon next year, things like that. Keep Shady healthy. Let A.J. go this year. And you never know, if A.J. really, really starts to play bad, Josh Allen could be ready. But I wouldn't start Josh Allen week 1. He doesn't need to.
Right.
Are you on the same page with me?
I'm absolutely on the same page with you. I mean, you have a guy sitting behind a pro's pro in Andy Dalton. Now, Andy Dalton isn't Aaron Rodgers over there, but he's still a veteran. He still learned next to him. And I believe A.J. McCarron, give him a shot. The guy never had a true shot because he always had Dalton in front of him. Give McCarron a shot. Maybe you use him as trade bait next offseason, and you give the keys to Josh Allen. You never know who gets hurt in training camp or what have you.
Right, no, I'm not the biggest Josh Allen fan to begin with, so maybe that's where my
I was very high on him.
Comes in.
I believe that you can't always go by the school that you're from. I mean, people were going by Brett Favre's school that he came from in Mississippi, and he had the lowest completion percentage. And look what he turned out to be. Now, I'm not saying he'll turn out to be Brett Favre, but just saying that all these young quarterbacks,
big arm guy.
Yeah, all these young quarterbacks coming into the league, they all have holes. But now they're with professional coaches on an everyday basis. Let's see what he turns out to be. But I'm on the same page with you, AJ, all the way right now. Moving on, we have the South Beach Miami Dolphins. Okay, and the biggest thing down there, I mean, they traded away freaking Jarvis Landry for pennies on the dollar to Cleveland, which I still don't understand.
What was that, like a 5th round pick?
4 and a 5th for Jarvis Landry. That's unbelievable. We like to call him in the fantasy world PPR monster. But when they were to pick in this past year's draft, they selected Mika Fitzpatrick, the Jersey native from Alabama. Was it the right pick, Rick?
I don't think it was a bad pick. I'd probably give it somewhere between a B and a B minus, which
solid.
Right, solid.
It was like the Jamal Adams of last year for the Jets.
Right. It was decent. I think he's gonna be a good player, but I just love the kid Derwin James out of Florida State.
Yeah, I don't know how he fell to 17 to the LA Chargers.
I just like him so much better. A lot of people in basketball or even in football we see on Instagram, they post these workout videos.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest fan of it in basketball. Yeah. In football, I love it.
Yeah.
And it's not the weight purpose. It's more of, especially for the rookies we've seen what Saquon's doing with Todd Gurley out in LA.
Okay.
I just love to see these guys working out and they're always training and
showing off that athleticism.
Right. Basketball, to me, it's not as big of a deal. I think it's a little much, but he's just a workout warrior. And again, the problem with Alabama sometimes is that front 7 really allows the back 4, that secondary, the 2 corners and their safeties, to be a lot bigger risk takers because they're creating so much havoc up front for the opposing quarterbacks that a lot of these times it's like you have like Allen, you have Ashawn Robinson and Hand and all these other guys. We've seen it. Courtney Upshaw. We've seen all these front 7 guys, and it's a chuck and duck for the other quarterback. And guys like Minka Fitzpatrick, it looks like they're catching. It's a fair catch. So I'm a bigger Derwin James fan, but I think it's a solid pick.
What I would have thought was the pick right there would have been a Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley fell to the Atlanta Falcons, a playoff team nonetheless. But
will be good for them.
Like they needed him. But and maybe Calvin Ridley, for you fantasy people out there, that's a dynasty pick. Maybe not so much this year, but in the coming years, he will come along, and that is the Julio Jones replacement.
Well, he could be that complimentary Mohamed Sanu type guy. He can be that 1B receiver who's still very productive in that line.
And actually, looking at his tape, I mean, you might call me crazy. I thought he had a little more athleticism than Amari Cooper at Alabama. Same kind of body type, but I thought a little more jut, a little more fast.
Well, I think Amari Cooper, he really burst on the seam, and I think a lot of people might have started to see what he's about. People said he's Julio Jones. To me, he's more of a speed burner than a Julio Jones. I don't know if Amari Cooper is that 3rd and 8, big 9-yard,
No.
10-yard catch. I think he's a play action and he kills you, but he's got the physicality.
I've seen Carr go on 3rd and 9 to Seth Roberts more than
he used to go to Crabtree before he went to Baltimore. He didn't love going to Amari was their big play guy. If you look at like the box score, Amari might have 3 catches for 110 yards to 70-yard touchdown.
Just to get on an Oakland Raider point, my uncle's favorite team, Martavis Bryant was traded there, and I think that's a big trade. People might look at me and say, well, they just had to get him out of Pittsburgh just to emerge Juju as the 2. I think that's a big play for Carr. He gives you a big-bodied receiver. I know he's wackadoo in the mind,
right?
But he has a Plexico Burress body
type. If he could
type.
stay right mentally.
Right. Josh Gordon, another Josh Gordon.
Right, well, no one's that bad.
Right,
Come on, no one's that bad.
I'll take that back, yeah.
But if he could stay right mentally and he's another workout.
Well, you got Gruden.
Guy.
If you get a guy like that, you have to have a Gruden, Belichick, or someone stability-wise, Mike McCarthy, some stabilization.
Coughlin, I think, would have been great for him.
Andy Reid, some stabilization in the league and the team to say, hey, listen, we'll take on this problem and make it a positive.
Right.
So, yeah, for the Miami Dolphins, I think they should have went Calvin Ridley just for the facts that we stated. They traded away Jarvis Landry. And now who's Tannehill throwing to? Danny Amendola and Devontae Parker, who I'm still waiting for. He's like the biggest garbage can player. The guy scores all his fantasy points in a garbage game. People out there, if you're struggling for a receiver, you take Devontae Parker and you play him against a good team. You know why? Because the Patriots will probably be up by 1,000 by halftime, and then he'll get all the garbage time 20 points. I remember having Devontae Parker in a game, right? He had 0 points at halftime. The guy came out with 30 points in the 4th quarter. I'm like, how did this happen? I mean, granted, I play in a PPR league, but it's the defense is played back. They're playing that umbrella defense.
Right, they're letting you get 10-15 over the middle because they're up 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns with a quarter left.
Play him against the good teams, the streamers. Trust me, if you're looking for a flex at least. But yeah, he's the biggest waste of time. I got to talk to him about that. My friend Kai was his roommate. But moving on to the Patriots of New England. Rick, will this dominance ever end? Will they ever slow down? Is this the decline of Brady finally? Come on. The guy is, 40?
Father Time is undefeated.
For this guy.
But he's the closest that we know what LeBron James does with his body. I think he pays $1 million, I think he said, a year just to keep his body right.
Saw that avocado ice cream.
Tom Brady, he keeps in shape better than any other NFL athlete. Now, I'm not saying he's in the most shape or he's the most athletic, but you're not going to find a guy who eats healthier, and you're not going to find a guy who keeps himself prepared more than anyone else in the entire league, probably in the history of the league.
The guy outlasted Peyton Manning, and Peyton Manning was one of the smartest quarterbacks I knew.
Right. It's not like they had Cam Newton bodies where they could run and they were elusive. They sit there like a dead target. And we always say the game plan is to knock Brady down, and no one's knocking him down. So to really answer the question, no, the dominance isn't ending here. Not this season.
You know what? I agree with you. It's not ending. That's why it's
called. And you're a Jet fan.
Yeah, that's why it's called the New England Invitational. All right, next to my New York Jets Nation, Rick. When does the Darnold era begin? We drafted this guy at number 3 overall. And I had said to many fans, this was one of the greatest picks. All right? I would have went either Rosen or Darnold here. And I am not sad one bit. I think this kid is the future of our franchise. I think it's the first time since Joan Willie Namath that the New York Jets selected a quarterback that was ranked 1 on everyone's board. They took the guy that everybody else wanted. So, Jet fans, I love it. I want to see what Rick says, but when do you see this era starting?
The later, the better. And the only reason I say that is because that means the Jets aren't a full blow-up mode right away. If they're 0-8...
We ain't playing for the pick.
Right, right. If you're 0-8 and you're already looking at a potential top 5 pick, it's a problem because the fans are going to be cheering for Darnold. Even if you're 6-10... To me, that's a good enough reason not to play him this season. They don't have the weapons. They just don't have the foundation for him right now. I wouldn't even let him see the field this season.
It's funny you say that because I think he will be playing by week 3, and I'm going to tell you why.
So what happened week 1 and week 2? McCown gets hurt.
Yeah, because McCown has been in this league probably 15 plus years. I've never seen the guy finish a full season. That's number 1. Number 2, I think the Jets will fall in love with Darnold so much they'll say, sit on the side, we'll let McCown start. Oh, by the way, someone got hurt in training camp. Teddy Bridgewater, you're like when the Eagles traded Sam Bradford, we'll get a pick for you, a second rounder. Go be someone else's quarterback. And you know what? I'll be fine with that. And you know what? I see him script weird things happen in this league and in every sport where things are scripted Hollywood-like. I don't know what it is, but I feel week 3, it will be Sam Darnold on Thursday Night Football against the Cleveland Browns and Baker Mayfield. I'm telling you, I'm putting this whole script together like a Hollywood producer where I'm building it up.
Is Baker Mayfield starting week 1 for you? Because when does Baker Mayfield enter the equation?
Well, I believe probably by week 2. Just for their mere...
Week 2? So what's the point of it? So you might as well start in week 1 then, right? Why?
Well, you might as well. And I think, Hugh, let's start off with...
Hugh, are you listening?
Yeah, really. The HBO series Hard Knocks starts in a couple of
Which
weeks.
is a nightmare for Baker Mayfield, but...
No, actually, I think it will help his cause. You know why? I don't like Baker... I'm not going to say I don't like Baker Mayfield. I love Baker Mayfield's personality. I don't like the stuff he does off the field. But if I'm around Baker Mayfield, okay, I'm watching him as an audience. Baker Mayfield's going to be selling the jerseys. Baker Mayfield was taken first overall. Oh, by the way, they have a football series in August. And their cameras are going to be around him. The nation's going to get to know who Baker Mayfield is and the upcoming of the Cleveland Browns. I believe by week 1, the Browns have a horrendous start. They play the Pittsburgh Steelers, okay? Now, they don't have a great defense, but I see Tyrod Taylor throwing a couple of picks. The pressure starts building. He goes into week 2. The pressure starts building. He gets taken out, a la Tom Savage last year with Deshaun Watson. Came in, and you know what? Baker Mayfield starts week 3 against Sam Darnold.
Oh, so
a lot of what ifs happening.
Right. So
as you can see, I dream a lot.
Right. So they're both going to start week 3, and according to you, it's probably going to be a 48-45 game. Darnold's going to have about 4 touchdowns. Baker's going to run for 200 yards, and Jarvis Landry's going to go for 250. No,
actually, I see.
Basically, what he's saying is get as many Browns and Jets players as you can that night.
No, to be honest, if I were drafting in a fantasy league, I would be keen on the Browns' new players in a Carlos Hyde and a Jarvis Landry. Not so much on the young quarterbacks because, obviously in fantasy you have a plethora of quarterbacks. But for the player standpoint of the Jets, I believe, you invest in an Isaiah Crowell. You would invest in a Robbie Anderson.
I don't want to hear about Isaiah Crowell. There's a reason the Browns let him go.
Okay, but at the same
because
token,
they can get Carlos Hyde.
At the same token, he wasn't on the Jets. The Jets, when they got, I will never forget, they had a what's the guy before Bilal Powell? That was
Sean Green.
No. Chris Ivory. Chris Ivory, I believe, sort of, kind of has the body of a Isaiah Crowell, minus the hair. Well, they have the hair. They both have the hair.
There was a reason the Saints let Chris Ivory leave.
But what did I say to you in the car, Rick? Certain players do better in certain systems.
I agree with that.
No
matter the sport, I agree with that.
Right. Chris Hogan would suck on the Jets.
He was bad for the Bills.
Exactly. So let's just be real. Certain players, Edelman would be a horror show on the Raiders. That's what it is. Okay?
Well, anytime you leave Brady, you're going to not be good.
So that's what it is.
Or as good.
Wes Welker was probably the only one that left Brady and was just as good, if not better, because he had Peyton Manning. But when you go to a different system, I believe they will use Isaiah Crowell as a Chris Ivory. Run them with that power. Young quarterbacks, what do they love to do? Throw to tight ends and give it to the running back. That's what they're going to do, and I believe they're going to feast off of that, just like a Carlos Hyde off of a Baker Mayfield. They will feast over that. So that is our breakdown for the AFC East Breakdown for this year of training camp. Well, for this week. Sorry, not this year. What am I? Cracked out already. Anywho, moving to our mailbag segment. Okay? We're moving to our mailbag segment. Rick, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, we had some questions DM'd to us this past week, so I'm going to read them to you. Joe from South Jersey. QB settings in my new league are 6 points for touchdowns, which is a PPR league. Does this affect how I draft a quarterback in my upcoming 2018 draft? Because of this rule change, should I pick one earlier or later?
I would pick one a little bit earlier, but I wouldn't stretch for it either. 6 point, if you look at it, someone's throwing 3 touchdowns at 6 points. So it's an extra 6 points, because most leagues are 4 points. The leagues we play in are 4 points. So I wouldn't go too overboard with it, but if you're in a 2 quarterback league, that really changes everything. I know those aren't the most popular, but
yeah,
I don't think it would change all that much. Maybe a round earlier at the most.
I think if anything, you could take a quarterback in the last round because everybody is 6 points.
Right. You could look at it that way too, and you could look at it that you could even be more aggressive with the running back, the other skill positions, the running backs, the tight ends, the wide receivers.
As fantasy players, you have to look at it. If I'm going to take a quarterback early, is he going to separate me from everyone else? An Aaron Rodgers, a Deshaun Watson, a Cam Newton. Usually guys that could run, other than Rodgers because he's just a sniper. Other than those 3 that could separate, or maybe a Russell Wilson, everyone else is pretty much on the same level in a top 15 way of looking at things. So I believe you work the system and draft one late. It helps you. On for our next question. Mike from PA. In a 2-man keeper league, standard, I have 3 options to keep. Joe Mixon, Jay Ajayi, or Lamar Miller. Who am I keeping?
Jay Ajayi, because the Eagles' offense should be up by about 2 or 3 touchdowns at halftime every game.
Yeah.
And the other, I would go with Deshaun Watson's co-partner, Lamar Miller. I mean, that they were dynamic last year. Lamar Miller was good with Deshaun Watson in the lineup, so I don't even think that's all that close. And the Bengals should be losing a lot of games. Joe Mixon's not the guy I want as a running back when I'm losing.
Well, I believe the other way. Joe Mixon, I believe, was in the doghouse. Marvin Lewis for I don't know how. This is why this country is America.
Why he still has a job?
Why does he still have a job after being a loser? But whatever it may be.
It's America.
It's America. Right. Great country. He has his job. Marvin Lewis is from the elder statesman way of thinking that not breaking in a rookie too early is the way to go. So he'll lean on Mixon now because he's a 1-year vet. And I believe he'll get the majority of the carries, take the ball out of Andy Dalton's hand, play off some defense, and we'll see. I think he will get the volume in that offense with that Bill Lazor offense. And I saw him.
You're going with volume over talent because I think Lamar Miller is more talented.
Well, you wait until you hear this next one. I believe the second one that should be kept is Jay Ajayi. Now, here's why I say don't keep Lamar Miller, which I love the school he's from, the U. Yes, I love that. But here's why you don't keep him. It is not PPR, okay? Lamar Miller used to catch passes out of the backfield. Okay, with Deshaun Watson, if you saw the statistical stats, he went downfield over 65% of the time. That means he's going to Will Fuller, he's going to Nook Hopkins, he's going to Griffith, the tight end. So, and even Braxton Miller, he was going to over the middle with some drag routes. So, for me, it's a standard league. The Eagles have stressed that Jay Ajayi is the guy. I know Corey Clement is there. I know Darren Sproles is coming off an injury.
They're not Jay Ajayi.
No, but Jay Ajayi, I think, is the train, and I think they're going to...
They're not him.
And you know what? Wentz is coming off ACL.
I think they have a point to prove this season,
right,
especially him.
They're going to run the ball, and you know what? Dallas Cowboys, you don't have the best offensive line anymore. It's the Philadelphia Phillies. I mean the Philadelphia Phillies. What am I doing? Because we're going to the Philly game. Not the Philadelphia Phillies. It's the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles, Jason Kelsey, Travis Kelce's brother. You got Lane Johnson. You have some big boys up there. Peters. You have some big boys up there. You run after them, power O, and you give that ball to a Jay Ajayi and make him work because you got your franchise quarterback coming off an injury season. Just run that damn sucker. So, yes, I love Jay Ajayi, the train, and Joey Mixon. Okay. So, yes, Ricky, I know you had some statistical stuff about the home run derby.
Yeah, before we'll get to our picks to click real quick. My guys, J.D. Martinez, he's last 7, he's hitting 400. He's got 12 RBIs in the last week, and he's 361 at home against a very, very porous Blue Jays team.
Yeah, they're horrible.
They're looking,
I don't want to hear about J-Hack.
Yeah, they're looking for an LA trip, I think, to go on vacation for the All-Star break. And my pitcher is Miles Michaelis. He did really, really well versus
St. Louis.
No, he pitches for St. Louis.
No, yeah, he pitches for yeah.
Right. He's excuse me.
But he's
from
pitching
St. Louis.
against.
He's going against the Reds. He's gone against them twice, 7 innings each, 1 run and 2 runs respectively given up. And him starting towards the end of this weekend allows him. He won't be pitching in the All-Star game, which allows him just to focus on this start. I think sometimes that last start before the All-Star game, they're getting the family tickets. The family's flying in. They're getting the hotel. They're worried about the red carpet. No. Miles Michaelis is ready for this. Let him start, against the Reds and go out and dominate.
Okay, my pick to click players it's Jesse Winker.
Winker.
Yes, Jesse Winker. He looks like John Stamos from Full House.
Winker.
Jesse Winker. You're probably looking at, who is Jesse Winker? Well, Jesse Winker is from the Queen City of Cincinnati. Okay, he bats 5th in that lineup. They have been scoring a ton of runs.
Jim Riggleman has done a great job.
Yes, that is a great point.
Since he
took
gotten
over,
there, he has done a fantastic job.
I think he deserves the job next year. But yes, his average 286 since coming up, 32 runs scored, 7 home runs, 39 RBIs. This guy's a sneaky fantasy guy. Not even pick to click. How about a sneaky fantasy guy? 16% ownership. All right? You got to pick him up, and I think he's going to go nuts in St. Louis off your boy, Mike McLaughlin, whatever it is. D. Nanas, we got a Greek in there.
Yeah.
I can't even pronounce it. And then my pitcher is the guys that I want the New York Yankees to go after. Cole Hamels. He gets the Baltimore Orioles in Baltimore. Career-wise, he's pitched to a 2.28 ERA against them, and I believe he'll dominate them because it's either Manny Machado or nobody in that lineup.
You know what I think would be nice for Yankee fans to see? Machado versus Hamels, home run once, strike out another bat, and Zach Britton comes off for the save. So then all the Yankee scouts can be in one ballpark. They could see all 3 guys, all be successful. But before we end, we have it's funny. The Meadowlands is opening up their sports book this weekend, right before the All-Star break. So, we were talking about it today, and the odds just came out. And we were talking about home run predictions and for the home run derby. So
read them off to me, Ricky.
We got Bryce Harper at plus 300, plus Jesus Aguilar plus 375, Max Muncy plus 500, Rhys Hoskins and Javier Baez each at plus 550, Kyle Schwarber plus 600, Freddie Freeman is plus 650, and Alex Bregman is last at 900. So we gave you our home run derby picks, but that wasn't with any moolah on the line. If I'm going to go with moolah, the guy I want to take with a little value, believe it or not, is Kyle Schwarber at plus 600. Now, I don't think he's going to win, but with a little bet like this, you throw a little $5, you get yourself integrated into the new betting. I'm going to go with Kyle Schwarber at plus 600, a $5 bet will return you 30. Watch the home run derby for a little fun.
You know what? I'm going to agree with you because I was eyeing that same one, and Rick and I like to go opposite just because it makes for great conversation, and sometimes we're actually sticking up for our point. But I love that. I love that wager. I think that's a brilliant wager, and you can't lose.
Right, exactly. It's
and he's got that stroke. He's like a mini Babe Ruth.
Right. He reminds me of one of those guys. He reminds me of Jesus Aguilar from the left side a little bit. But I think he's one of those guys, if he gets going, it becomes a beach ball.
So he just reminds me of that fat kid from The Sandlot.
Oh,
The
yes.
Smalls! Hey, Smalls!
Yes, Smalls, exactly. And it's weird because he's not a great defensive player, but he doesn't need to be for this. So just a little wagering action if you want to get into it this weekend as the Meadowlands opens up.
Okay. So, folks, as always, please follow us on IG and DM us questions. We will be sure to answer them, as always, at JFP Sports. And subscribe to JFP Sports on our YouTube channel. In the great words of Dr. Seuss, don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened. Till next time, folks.